Kate would go on to develop a real ability to connect with the public, thanks to her normal, albeit upper-middle-class, upbringing.
Thank you. She was very proud of who she was and where she came from, and very proud of her family.
In contrast, Diana was born into aristocracy.
Diana mingled with the royal family. Her grandmother was lady-in-waiting to the Queen.
But spent her life battling to break free.
She was the absolute royal rebel, Diana. She modernised the royal family. She took it into uncharted waters. Even the Queen had to adjust to Diana's legacy.
Katie.
Kate was born into a middle-class family in Berkshire.
She grew up in the countryside, not far from Windsor, with her parents, Michael and Carol, who ran a party planning company.
The Middletons are self-made people.
Kate's ancestors on one side were miners in County Durham.
Kate's mother herself was brought up in a council flat.
Lots of chocolate for me to eat, lots of caramel.
The young Kate showcases her performing ability in these two school productions. In one of them, her character on stage seems to predict her future life.
Soon you shall meet a handsome man, a rich gentleman. It is all I ever hoped for.
Kate went on to have a higher education. She went to university.
Rich and handsome.
She went to St Andrews, where destiny awaited.
A very prestigious university where a young prince is also going.
You'll marry me.
And that's where the meeting happens.
Yes, so yes, dear William.
Music is something Kate has in common with her late mother-in-law.
Diana certainly had a great passion for music, both popular, classical, all different styles.
I'm a great believer in having music wherever I go, whether it's a headset or a radio or a record player.
Diana was quite a good pianist.
I really enjoy it. It's very therapeutic.
But in contrast to Kate, Diana was an aristocrat.
She was brought up on the Sandringham estate. She mingled with the royal family.
She grew up in Park House, practically next door to the Queen, whom she called Aunt Lilibet.
Her play dates were with Prince Andrew. She played with the young princes.
Very proud, very happy. Happy for Diana.
Her father was an equerry to King George VI and later to Queen Elizabeth. Both of her grandmothers were ladies-in-waiting to the Queen Mother and then to the Queen. So she was very used to, I suppose, the aristocratic way of life.
Diana famously said she left without an O-level. She then spent a few months at a Swiss finishing school where the main task of educating the daughters of landed gentry was to show them how to write a cheque and how to find a rich husband.
So both of them were privately educated, but of course Kate took her education that much further. Diana didn't go to university.
She had no ambition to go on to higher education because it simply wasn't on offer to her. And that's the key thing where education comes in. I mean, she was not Charles's intellectual equal.
Catherine Middleton.
Kate is most certainly William's intellectual equal and probably a few steps higher up, actually.
And there was another difference between Kate and Diana's upbringing.
Kate was brought up in a loving home, very close to her siblings, and a father and mother who adore one another. Diana, as we know, was brought up in a broken home, and it had an effect on her throughout her entire life.
Kate's stable family life will have stood her in good stead in her relationship with William. After meeting at St Andrews University, they enjoyed a 9-year courtship.
Their relationship developed as equals, despite the disparity in their backgrounds.
And she was very much her own woman.
Kate was the first so-called commoner to marry a future king for 350 years. She was the first princess to walk the catwalk in her lingerie. And she was the first future queen to cohabit with her boyfriend, which in Diana's day would have been seen as living in sin.
Diana in the 1980s and Kate in the 2000s had very different experiences of dating an heir to the throne. Lady Diana Spencer was just 19 when she first started seeing Charles, who was 12 years older.
There are several things you can draw out of the way the relationships began in both cases. With Diana, it was an all too brief and extremely formal experience.
These two who, let's not forget, had only had about 12 or 13 dates before they actually got married, a lot of which was conducted on the telephone. They barely knew each other.
She had to call Charles Sir when they were in public, and often there were other people present in what passed for the courting that they did. He would invite her to dinners at Buckingham Palace, and usually she was surrounded often by really quite elderly people. And it must have been very hard for this young woman.
Diana's courtship with Charles was in complete contrast to the independence she enjoyed in her job as a nursery nurse.
Why did you go into teaching? What prompted you?
Well, I adore children.
Diana was working as a nursery school assistant and nannying as well. She had to deal with members of the public, parents of the children who came to the school. She had to make appointments and things like that, which apparently she was very good at.
Diana was a natural with the children she worked with, as witnessed by Kay Seth Smith, who ran the nursery in Pimlico.
From the minute she walked in, you could tell that she had a really genuine love for young children, particularly the very small ones.
While Diana's engagement to Charles led to her leaving the job she loved, Kate, perhaps wisely, continued working while preparing for her royal career.
Kate worked as a fashion accessories buyer. She worked for the Middleton family firm, which was to do with party planning and party paraphernalia.
Which perhaps wasn't seen as a serious job by some people, but it kept her busy, it kept her safe and protected, and it also meant that she could work around William's routine. By this point, he was working his way through all factions of the army, and he then went on to train with the RAF as well, and she was able to support his military career and be with him because she wasn't in a rigid 9-to-5 job.